on, yes, Wim, and on his methods, and it works. So one of my friends mentioned it to me, and I read his book. If you guys are interested, you can find it on Audible. Give it a listen. Incredible stuff. And basically, there's also an app as well. So the app is essentially, it just monitors your I guess, attempts at doing the deep breathing exercises, as well as the like the cold shower, sort of 15-second, 30-second cold shower interfaces as well. So what are you saying, Parnell? Good. I am in the, can't think of the term that's normally used, but currently in the state of reflection stage at the 8 grams. Wow. That's intense. Yeah, there are people in the world that don't know about Wim. The app is not free anymore. You understand my painting? Thank you. Yeah, the app isn't free anymore, and I was reluctant to pay for it. But then I read his book, Wim's book, and I realized that, the money that the app is generating goes towards, I think, making people more aware of this method. And, if it can reach people and it can help people. So it starts off as free, the app does, but then like after like there's like a trial section. If you use it for longer than like 5 cycles or whatever, then it does charge you. And maybe it's different on Android, but it definitely isn't on on iOS. So, but I paid for it. I just did the year, and I like and support what he's doing. So, okay, so we have somebody amongst us that is on an 8-gram mushroom trip. And he had a breakthrough, and he understands the connection to everything. One day you become an alpha woman. So yes, that is one of the things about mushrooms that keeps kind of getting reported amongst people who do trip, especially at that heroic levels. They also sort of report feeling a deep and profound connection with the world. So you're right on task there, friend. So I can read your comments. What are you upset about? What's going on? Are you okay? Okay. So I recommend that you check out the Wim Hof method, because so far it's been interesting. I'm the kind of person who's like usually like cold a lot. And so the idea of taking a cold shower was very terrifying to me, and kind of working myself into that. Okay, so I'm in a warm shower, and now I've got to turn it to the cold. That was sort of a mind trip for me. But I can say now that I've been doing it for a week. So you take a warm shower, and then like towards the end, for like, you start with 15 seconds, and then you can work your way up to like 30 seconds, and then you can work your way up to like 45 seconds. But at the end of the shower, you like slowly, this is what I do anyway. I don't just turn off the hot water. You just slowly turn off the hot water, and then kind of just like stand in there, and you're gonna want to go. But over time, at least it's just been a week, like I said, for me. But over time, your body kind of gets used to it, and it's fun. So can you control your breath in the cold now? I'm getting there. So actually this morning when I took a shower, I started out just doing 15 seconds, and I was like, nah, I could do it. Like I could do it. So the water is like beaming down on me, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I'm counting in my head. But then when I hit 15, I was like, okay, I can push past 15. So I stayed in there, and I was like, all right, 20. And then I was like, okay, 25. So I actually did 40 seconds in the cold, and I felt really proud of myself. And I like, it's weird to say this, but I actually I'm now looking forward to like taking showers, taking cold showers in the morning tomorrow. So yeah, I have seen people do where they just go and they sit in like the ice baths. Thank you. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that yet. Yes, somebody just said when you start breathing normal in the cold showers, you feel like a superhero. Absolutely. Like I feel like, okay, like I thought I couldn't do something, and now I made myself do something that I thought I couldn't do, and now I'm doing it, and I'm like, okay, like I could do anything. So eventually, in a year, so you guys mark this down, a year from now, maybe, maybe a year from now, I will attempt to do an ice bath and just get in there, get the bucket, fill it with ice, and just submerge myself in it and see if I can do that. So I'm working my way up to that. So for those of you who are just kind of jumping in, I'm talking about the Wim Hof method. And if you've never heard of it, as somebody suggested, just head on to YouTube and search WIM space HOF method. Thank you, friend. And another thing I'm doing is the deep breathing as well. And so what it is it's called like controlled hyperventilation, where you breathe in, you breathe out. You breathe in, you breathe out. You breathe in, you breathe out. Thank you. And you do that you can do 25 cycles, breathe in, breathe out. You can do 30, you can do 35. And then you release the breath and then you hold for as long as you can. And then you breathe in. Once you listen to your body, you breathe in. And then you take a deep breath again for 15 seconds and then, relax. And so I don't want to miss you guys' comments. So you heard of the methods. Yeah, you should try it. Try it if you feel inclined to do it. I'm not a medical professional. It's just something I started doing this week. That's what I am talking about. Yeah, the Wim Hof method. And so while I was doing it, and somebody just mentioned, Sesame Street Kid just mentioned that, yes, you can find a video on YouTube as well. I haven't had a chance to check it out on YouTube, but I know there's also a documentary on Netflix about him too. They call him the Iceman. So yes, I don't want to. Sorry, guys. So yeah, doing the breathing exercises have been very interesting for me because they've also been very like calming. I do them 3 times a day. So I do them in the morning, and I'll find time in the afternoon to do it. And then right before I go to bed, I'll do it again. And so it's funny, like, I don't know if this is normal or not, probably not, but in the part of the breathing exercise where you're supposed to like take a deep breath and then hold, I find that I'm actually falling asleep. No, I don't get lightheaded because I do it while laying down, but I do find that I'm falling asleep. And I don't know if that's a good thing because I'm like obviously holding my breath. So I'm like, I'm falling asleep holding my breath. I like mentioned this to my daughter and she was like, isn't that called passing out? And I was like, maybe. I don't think I'm passing out. Like, I'm clearly so conscious. But it's like I get so relaxed. Like who would think that just like a breathing exercise, that happens to you at yoga? Yeah, I even though it's a breathing exercise, like it's so calming. Like who would think that something like as breathing would be like that calming? But I want to address what you guys are saying, so I don't want to ignore you. Hello. Somebody said, I don't agree with all your beliefs, but I find you fascinating. I appreciate that. You don't have to agree with all my beliefs. I don't even know if I agree with all my beliefs, but I appreciate your kindness. That's awesome. What color did you put in your hair? Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I like it or not. It's like pinkish. I don't know, but thank you. And hello to user 51893. You can change that. I don't know how to change that, but you can change it so that like it's more customized. You have a paradox belief sometimes. Yeah, hey, I want you to think of the life path numbers. So I love reading about life path numbers. In fact, because there's not a lot of people. Oh, ask me the question again, the most enlightening thing that I've read. Because I want to answer that. I love questions about books. But as far as life path numbers is concerned, so if I meet a person, because life path numbers aren't as well known as like, okay, what's your horoscope, right? Like if you ask somebody what's your sign, people automatically know, oh, I'm a Virgo, I'm a this, I'm a that. Yeah, numerology, life path numbers. But most people aren't familiar. There is a lady named Felicia Bender who I like her write-ups. I find them to be very like on point. But if I meet somebody and I'm like interested in like trying to get to know them, I'll like low-key ask like, hey, what's your birthday? Or I'll just straight up just send them like the chart, because some people don't want to just give you like their full birthday for whatever reason. So I'll send them like a link and I say, hey, put your birthday in this link. And then tell me what your number is. And then I go and I read about them. And I do find it to be very, very interesting and very like fascinating. Somebody said that they're 33. So I think that also, it's like a 33 also breaks down to like a 6, right? So you would be like a life path 6. And from what I remember off the top of my head, life path 6 tend to be like very like they're on a higher plane and tuned with, you know, like the cosmos and stuff like that, and like wise and like, you know, all of that, which I think is pretty cool. Please look at your like. Could you please repeat your last question? I apologize. But I'd love to answer your question. And somebody asked, well, what's my favorite book or most inspiring book? I have so many favorite books, but I will talk about, what's a 3? Are you a 3 too? I am not a 3. I am a life path 7. And I think it's pretty spot on, like, obviously, for those of you who are familiar. Yeah. Do you think that we can consciously control quantum wave collapse? Yeah, I mean, isn't that the definition of the wave collapse? It's like consciousness is what collapses it. So absolutely. Hey, another life path 7. That's what's up. I got to read about 5s. 7 is my favorite number. My name number is spot on. That's dope. Yeah. So, but somebody asked about my favorite book. So the last live I did, like, I think 3 different people came in and they said, you got to read this book called Ishmael. And it's a short book. Like, if you're listening on Audible, I would say it's like a 2 hours, if I'm remembering correctly. And I always speed it up. So it took me like 45 minutes to listen to it. Do you think I can become God? I'll get back to that. Hey, thank you. Appreciate you. This is how my lives are, guys. Like, I start a concept, but I don't want you guys to feel left out. So I'll like jump from what I'm talking down to what you guys are saying as well. It's great for focus. But the last live I did, people kept commenting that I should read the book Ishmael. If you guys haven't read that book, you should read that book. It was very interesting. And I read it this week. So I could tell you what my favorite books are, but I read so much. And I can also share how I read so much and so quickly. Somebody asked for a synopsis. So the synopsis of Ishmael is basically this guy finds like an ad in the newspaper, and it says it's seeking somebody who wants to save the world. And he sort of like is disgruntled because in the 70s or whatever, that was who he was, you know, in his youth, that he was trying to save the world and it didn't work out. And so anyway, he's frustrated, but he decides to kind of go to see what the ad's about. I don't want to give too much away because it's very interesting, but there is an entity that he ends up interacting with. And it's kind of like a thought experiment, but the ending of it, and if you guys have read Ishmael, but like jump in without spoiling for people who haven't read it. But the ending made me go like, whoa, that's deep. And I love books that when I read them, it just sort of, it's a paradigm shift. Like, it's like, I had never thought about that before. So if you read that book, you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to be like, whoa, like I've never thought about that before. And I'm not sure if I agree with all of what, you know, the author says in the book. But it was definitely a different perspective. So the name of the book is called Ishmael. And then I don't want to miss your question, C. Parnell, but I don't mean the collapse that you observe. I mean actually determining the outcome. I love a whoa. Yeah, definitely a whoa. Determining the outcome. So my perception of reality is that there are, you know, multiverse. So I always hashtag multiverse because I believe that there's obviously a myriad of different It is a good book. I believe that there is a myriad of different sort of outcomes, and the outcomes are all predetermined. You just sort of choose what the outcome is. It's like Schrodinger's cat, for example, right? There are only two options for that cat, right? Dead and alive. The outcomes are predetermined, and then it's the observer that collapses the wave function. So I think that there are a myriad of, outcomes, and then I guess you can sort of navigate your consciousness, if that's what you're asking, C. Parnell. Can you, consciously or with intent, navigate your consciousness towards a reality experience that you desire, then yes. But are you determining the outcome? No, because I believe that all outcomes are predetermined before, you're uploaded into the simulation. So, all right, I don't want to miss what you guys are talking about. So I'm going to scroll down to see what you guys are saying. You guys are always great. I'm writing a trippy book called Order of Alpha Omega, 6-book series. So that's dope. Yeah. I like the title just in itself. And yeah, Ishmael was a good book. Flowers for Algernon. Yeah, that was an interesting book, for sure. Quantum mechanics, where physics says that there's multiverse. Exactly. Okay, we're talking about 6th dimension. Nice. Yeah, welcome to my life. My hair's on fleek. Thank you. I'm trying to decide, like I said, whether I like it or not, but I kind of like the curly look, but it's okay. But yeah. How much are you charging for your paintings? I'm not selling them right now. I'm building up a collection, and then eventually I want to show them. I don't want to sell them. I want to show them, and I want to interact with people. Like, people will come in, I want to interact with them, talk to them, ask how they feel, how the paintings make them feel. So it's going to be an interactive thing. I'm not at the point yet where I'm ready to let go of them yet, because I'm selfish. So yeah, but eventually I will eventually do a show and do that. So somebody just asked, is the earth round or flat? What's the one behind you? So this is the one behind me. Kind of see most of it. It looks better in person, but it's one of my favorites. All right, so I want to kind of go back to, people always say my paintings look like me, and I don't think they do. Like, I only have one self-portrait that I've done, and it's actually a triple self-portrait. I don't post it. I'm going to go back to the flat versus round earth question, by the way. I'm not dodging that question, because it's one of my favorite questions. But none of my paintings that are behind me in any of my videos are self-portraits. The only self-portrait that I have, like I said, I don't post them. Because first of all, like, I can't, because they're like topless paintings, or it's a topless painting. But I painted a past, present, and future version of myself in one painting. And then but it's also like interpretation of like many versions of yourself. And then it was also like the mind, spirit, and body, or mind, consciousness, and body, like the triad. So one of my favorite paintings. And so it's a triple portrait. And I think you can see it on my Instagram page. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see me sitting in front of like a large painting. And then the caption says me, myself, and I, and I, and I. So that is my only self-portrait that I have. And the rest are just, maybe I'm painting like versions of my ancestors or something like that. I don't know. And normally when I sit down to paint, there's no intent behind what I'm painting. I sort of pull references that I like if I like a person's eyes or a person's bone structure, and I put them together to create a person. But I don't think I'm that vain where I'm just like painting myself over and over again. At least I'm not doing it intentionally or consciously. So when people do that, when people say, look, is that you in the background? I do pause and go, you know what, maybe that's like an ancestor that I'm painting. All right, so I don't want to miss you guys' questions. We can go back to see what you guys are saying. Thank you guys. You guys are so cool. I gotta do more lives, because you guys are like, I just like hanging out with you guys. Okay, so they're not self-portraits, but one of them really embodies your vibe. Which one do you think embodies my vibe? Okay, and then circumference around body. What do you think happens when we die? Okay, so back to round Earth versus flat Earth. I want to answer that. I don't think There's literally an episode on my podcast, Dark Oracles. Nope, not Dark Oracle. Sorry, not Dark Oracle's Guide to the Multiverse. My other podcast, which is Your One Black Friend, and the episode is called Earth's Shape Doesn't Fucking Matter. And when I go in there, I kind of like delve in, and what I basically say is that we're in a simulation. So like, I don't know if you guys ever played like an MMORPG or anything like that, but you know, if you are in a simulation, it really doesn't matter if the shape, you know, what the shape of the world in the simulation is, because at the end of the day, that's all, we're in a simulation. So that's kind of always going to be my answer to that question, is that the shape doesn't matter. But I get why people ask that. So yeah. Why are you laughing? Okay, your eyes are charming. Thank you. I don't think it's fame. We create based on what we know about ourselves best. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I like the shirt. Courage. Was it easy for you to start TikTok, or did you take courage on your part? So everything that you do that is outside of your and if I miss you guys' questions, please feel free to ask again, because I do try to answer as many questions as I can. Yeah, somebody said if Armstrong was the first man on the moon, who took the photo? I'm not gonna go with it. That's not what this TikTok is gonna be about, because like I believe what I believe, and I just sometimes like you say stuff, and as you guys can see, I'm kind of dancing around it. But I do think it's weird that over and over again, like NASA, like scientists now keep saying, NASA scientists now keep saying that we don't have, like, we've never gone past low Earth orbit. Like, they keep saying that. And I just think that's weird. That why do they keep saying that we've never gotten past low Earth orbit, but then they also said that we walked on the moon, and then they keep saying that we no longer have the technology to go to the moon, but it's like 21. How do we not have the technology when like cell phones didn't exist in the 60s? Anyway, but I don't want to get into that, because at the end of the day, yes, the shape of the Earth doesn't really matter. We're in a simulation, so let's move on. Yeah, it just, we'll just leave that alone. Yeah, exactly. If we went to the moon, then why can't we just go again? Yeah, and somebody asked, what do I think of the UFO report? I didn't read it because, honestly, I don't care. Because, like, I mean, you guys have to tell me what's about, or what they said. Because personally, this is what I said, I think a couple lives ago. I was like, these people have been gaslighting us about the nature of our reality. Like, they've said, UFOs don't exist, like, since like whatever, right? They said they called it swamp gas. They called it weather balloons. I guess I reached a point where I was just like, I don't need authority figures to kind of validate my own beliefs. And I figured whatever they were going to say was going to be, pardon my French, a load of bullshit anyway. So I just didn't bother. But if you guys want to share what they said, like, feel free. I don't care what they have to say. Like, I put my faith in people, right, who have said, the experiences that they have had, people who have written books, like people who have come out and said, this is my experience. Like, I'd rather trust those people than anything that the government, can you trust people who keep lying to you? Exactly. So fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. No, wait, flip that. Yeah. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I don't care what they have to say. Yeah. Okay. So if we're in a simulation, what's the point of anything? I love how you flipped that. Somebody had asked, if we're in the simulation, what's the point of everything? And then somebody responded, if we're not in the simulation, then what's the point of everything? And I love that. I feel like that's a dope response. But to answer that, well, what's the point of a simulation, right? What's the point of a game, right? It's whatever it is that you make it. There's some people who play games, for example, and they take that shit like really seriously. Like they live to play games, right? Remember the story of like people who were like dying, excuse me, it's a bit dark, but people who were like dying in like gaming houses, because like they made games, they made simulation like their life. And then there are people who just play because, you know, they want to like, you know, they're learning something or whatever. Like you have like, you know, for example, like the NFL uses like VR to train their players. So it's whatever it is that you make it. And feel free, guys, to check out my YouTube channel, because I do post lives, my past lives, and a lot of the stuff that you guys are asking, I've already sort of addressed. So which is why I sort of seem like I'm kind of glossing over stuff. I'm not intending on doing so. I just don't want to keep sort of rehashing things that I've already sort of said. If you know, because then it's kind of redundant in a way. Somebody asked, what do you think happens when you die? And my response to that is that you don't die, right? So once again, in my past lives, I'm plugging my YouTube channel a little bit, but you know, check them out. But in my past lives, and also my past lives, that's funny. In my previous lives on TikToks that I've updated or uploaded to my YouTube channel, I've discussed how like the body is just a vehicle. The body is just a vehicle, and what you really are is not the body. It is consciousness, yeah? So consciousness cannot die, right? So if you can reach a point in your life, and I think C. Parnell is there right now with his 8 grams trip, but if you can reach a point in your life where you fully believe and you hold on to, you know, this fact, right? That, hey, what up, UK? But you hold on to the fact that you're not your body, your consciousness that's essentially driving a vehicle, which is what all of the schools of thoughts and all of the philosophers and you know, spiritual, you know, groups and, hey, what up, UK? Well, isn't it kind of late over there? But, you know, have been saying over and over again that we are spiritual beings living and having a physical experience. Exactly what Funny Boy just said. So if you can hold on to that truth, right? If you can hold on to that truth, 4 a.m. Wow. But if you can hold on to that truth that you are not the body, that consciousness, what you really are, cannot die, then there's nothing to fear, right? This is just a vehicle, right? But for some reason, we've been sort of programmed to believe that we are the body, right? And to identify with the ego. And so that's why there's a lot of fear and things of that nature. But the truth is that obviously you are consciousness having a physical experience. That is a recurring sort of theme throughout time and throughout all different cultures, that you cannot die. So, all right, I don't want to miss what you guys are saying, so I'm going to scroll back. Just watch the Wim Hof video on YouTube and open TikTok to see your live title. Hey, that's cool. That's cool. So yeah, are you trying the Wim Hof method? That's what I started this live talking about. I was talking about how I've been doing the breathing exercises with the app, and that's been going really well. And then I've also been doing the cold shower thing. So that has been interesting as well. But how's that been going for you? It says, my consciousness is exhausted, not dying. Sounds like a trap. Well, you know, that's tough. I used to say that. That, you know, I'm tired of like just, I guess, living, you know, reincarnating over and over again. My soul feels old and I feel tired. So I used to say that. But it's about, I think, perspective, right? It's about, hold on. So you were saying if we hold on to the belief that we're consciousness, then, well, it's not even just a belief. If you know that that's what you are, then there is no reason to fear death because you don't die. It's almost like, so the analogy I used in the last live was like, imagine your cell phone, right? So you have a cell phone, right? You are not your cell phone, right? You have a cell phone. Now, I have an iPhone, so all of my data is sort of backed up to the cloud. If I drop my phone, or if my virtual hug, if I drop my phone or my phone gets destroyed, yeah, the information in my phone does not get destroyed. I can transfer the information in my phone to another phone, to another body, right? So that information never dies. It's kind of a loose analogy, but it works for what I'm trying to say. So somebody just said energy cannot be destroyed, right? Only modified. So you are consciousness, that you are driving this body. If anything were to happen to the body, imagine it's like your phone, but it's not you. Or even a better analogy, because I like the simulation hypothesis, like one of my faves. Thank you. I'll get back to the UFO question. But yes, another reason why I like the simulation hypothesis, because yes, it sort of illustrates that consciousness cannot be found like within the simulation. Does that make sense? So if I'm playing Mario, I was almost gonna wear my Mario shirt because then I would just point at that. But if I'm playing Mario and Mario dies, right? Like, yes, I am a consciousness sort of outside of the game, but Mario has died. I'm not dead. So you just reboot and you keep kind of going. One of my favorite authors is Anthony Peake. And in one of his books, I believe it's called Is There Life After Death? No, I know it's called Is There Life After Death. It's one of my favorite books. But he kind of basically takes that mindset and applies it to our life. Like he uses like a Tomb Raider analogy and then uses that to even explain like deja vu, right? Like you're living the same life kind of over and over again. But not in like a weird way, more like in a video game where like, so maybe you did, so you first go, you made this decision and then it didn't kind of work out. So you just reboot and you start over. And so what deja vu is more just remembering like a past life, but not as like a different entity, but like the same incarnation sort of over and over again. But I don't think that the limitation is just this one incarnation. Like the video I literally just posted before I went live, I posted it like, I don't even know how long I've been live, but like I posted it and then I went live. I really wanted to talk about and illustrate that if you can remember your past life, right, and you can be connected to your past lives, you can also be connected to your future life because it's the same mind, right, that is kind of operating all of these incarnations, all of these bodies. Okay, so if you can, like let's use the Anthony Peake Is There Life After Death analogy of us just sort of, the eternal return, Nietzsche's eternal return, just living this same life over and over again. But consciousness is not limited to just this one incarnation, right? You can also be controlling another incarnation as well in the future, which is why I wonder, like, why do we have to sleep for so long? You know what I mean? Like, what if as we're sleeping, or I should say, as your body is sleeping, what if your consciousness is now controlling another incarnation, right, in the future? Like, this could be a portrait of, like, a future incarnation of, my consciousness, right? And that, or my, all of my paintings could be, like, different sleeves, if you will, to use an altered carbon reference. That always pops up on my lives as well. If you guys haven't, I'm trying to fix my hair. I'm having like a deep like conversation, but my hair is like doing this weird thing here. If you guys have not read or watched Altered Carbon, please read it. Please read it and please or watch it on Netflix because it's on Netflix. I think you'll really enjoy it because it helps illustrate a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. If you've never heard of Altered Carbon, check it out. Okay, so I've been talking for a bit. I'm going to go back and sort of go through and read what you guys have been saying. So if we're only consciousness, could we use other vessels? Exactly. We can. We can inhabit more than one vessel or sleeve or body or vehicle or whatever. Okay, so let's see. Have you watched Synchronic on Netflix yet? No. Is it dark? Because somebody else mentioned a show called Dark, and it was about like time in the past and the future sort of influencing itself. They mentioned it, a lot of people mentioned it in my other video. And I went to go and watch it, and it was like, it started off with like a kid dying, and I was just like, I can't watch it. It was like too dark. I mean, I understand that the show is called Dark, but it was like, it's too dark. So if I cannot watch Dark. I mean, unless it just starts off a bit dark and then kind of like clears, gets a little bit like less, negative, I guess. It wasn't sitting right with my soul, so I just like disconnected. But yeah. Trinity, mind, body, and soul. Synchronic. Okay, time travel story. Yeah. Well, Anthony Mackie is the star for the second season of Altered Carbon. I don't remember the name of the first guy, but so it's two different actors, but the idea is that obviously they're taking on different bodies. So read the book or watch it. It's really, really good. The first season feels different from the second season, but they still, they're still very well done. And unfortunately, Netflix canceled it, but it is what it is. Anthony Mackie is a star of Synchronic as well. Oh, okay. I'll definitely check it out because I liked him in Altered Carbon. Oh, it's a movie, even better. So I don't have to like commit like a week or whatever to watching it. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Now, somebody just asked a great question: how many vessels of consciousness operate? I have no idea. I have no idea. Have I watched Solos and Prime? I don't think I have. But I think people have mentioned it, and I guess I probably should check it out. But to go back to the question about how many vessels have I watched the OA? I have. And the OA, I liked sort of like the different concepts that they delved into about parallel universes and, shifting consciousness from one sort of, universe to another. I really enjoyed that. But once again, it was one of those things where like the first season and then the second season were like disjointed, and it almost felt like two different shows. I wish they would have given it more time to develop, but I enjoy shows like that that kind of make you sort of like question the nature of your reality, so to speak. Somebody said, do you think fear can spawn from past lives? So not only just past lives, absolutely great question. And yes, not only from past lives, but the DNA of the body itself stores information. There have been people who've talked about like ancestral trauma. And actually even at the end of the Wim Hof method, the book, it's a book by Wim Hof, but at the end of it, he talks about it as well. But there's loads of books out there that you guys should look into it about the DNA, the body storing the trauma, storing the fears, the habits and things like that of people, right? Your ancestors, I guess, or whatever. It's all stored in there. So absolutely, if we're speaking on a material level, absolutely. But then also, yes, that there are people, for example, the kids who remembered like their past lives, and they sort of brought in their fears and old habits from previous incarnations as well. But the one thing that people always kind of do is that they kind of talk about past lives a lot, past incarnations, but people don't talk about future incarnations as well, which is one of the things I really try to do with my TikTok, is to get people thinking, not just like thinking about time in a non-linear fashion, right? That is one of my favorite things to do, is to think about time in a non-linear fashion, and also think about parallel realities as well. Somebody keeps asking about Olive Garden. I don't know what that means. I know what Olive Garden means. I don't understand your question though. How do you cleanse and heal yourself from ancestral trauma? So, like I said, at the end of the Wim Hof method, he addressed that. So the book that I'm talking about is called the Wim Hof method, which is also sort of what this live I've been kind of talking around it. But he addresses ways to sort of deal with that. And there are books, and I wish I could recall the name of books right now. If you guys know books that talk about that, please jump in and comment that. And help, people who are asking about that. Personally, I think just being mindful and being aware that the body, which is why I like, sort of mentioning Altered Carbon as well, because he actually addresses that in a way, but he says like the body holds different things. So if you can, separate your consciousness from the fact that, okay, this is a vehicle that you're in. And I think the most recent episode of my podcast talks about this as well, Your One Black Friend. But really, really understanding that, okay, there is the body, right? There is the ego. And then you, consciousness, are the operator. that separation is a good step, right? That separation is a good place to sort of start from, where you go, okay, whatever it is that is going on here, it's not mine, right? So creating distance from that and going, okay, it's not mine. It's just the nature of the beast, right? It's the nature of the body that I'm existing right now. Here's a weird thing, guys. So there are things that I will, I think we're in the process of shifting to the fourth dimension right now to answer that question. But here's things that I will notice about this body. There was one time this is a weird story, guys, but I'm sharing it with you, and you're welcome. But so one time I was like at Home Depot. Okay, so a little background, if you will. And any questions that you ask, if I miss, please feel free to ask them again so that I can address that. But I was at Home Depot. So a little background about myself. Okay, ancestrally speaking, on my father's side, I am Edo from the Edo tribe, Benin, West Africa, Nigeria. On my mother's side, I am Igbo, and also Southeast Nigeria, West Africa. Okay, so that is information that's programmed in the DNA of this body. Okay, just bear that in mind. And then this is who I am now. Yeah, I was at like a Home Depot, and we were sort of like strolling along, and I went to like the garden tools section, and I grabbed a cutlass. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but a cutlass. You guys know what a cutlass is, or cutlass? It's like a machete almost. And I'm not a violent person, right? But when I grabbed the cutlass and I held it in my hand, like it felt natural in my hand. Like I had like this, like it felt like a tool that like there's some aspect of myself that it resonated with. And I was just like, this feels weird. Yeah, it's like a sword kind of thing, but like a large thing. But when I grabbed it, I was like, this feels weird, but it feels like good in my hand. I swear I'm not a violent person, but and when I felt that, a part of me recognized that in my DNA, right? Stored in my DNA. Okay, backtrack just a little bit. So, for example, a muscle memory. Absolutely. Thank you, friend. A muscle memory in a way, a soul muscle memory in a way. No, it was a cutlass. But maybe I don't think anybody in my family was a pirate. But for example, good analogy. When people have organ transplants, for example, right? You guys are familiar with this. When a person has an organ transplant, through time, they have shown, and these are facts, that the recipient of the donor organ will sort of start to adopt personality traits and behaviors of the donor, right? So loving a type of music or particular way of eating that they didn't love that kind of music before or whatever, right? So that happens. Like, this is Googleable. This happens whenever a person has an organ transplant. So obviously, if your organs can store that kind of information as a muscle memory, as somebody just commented, or a soul muscle memory, and that's just within one sort of lifetime, right? An organ transplant can cause that kind of behavior. Somebody said, yes, thank you for saying, yeah, taking on donor traits is so weird, but it is absolutely demonstrated. So that should tell you that clearly that there's the DNA, the information of who the person was is stored even in that organ and can be passed on, absolutely passed on to a recipient of that organ, right? Okay, so why do you think that it absolutely does happen? So why do you think that that's limited to just like, a transfer of organs? Like, absolutely, you could have traits that have been passed on, clearly. I mean, that's how, genetics work, but that have been passed on from your ancestors or whatever. So when I went and grabbed the machete, I literally felt like, okay, there's somebody in my ancestral line where holding this cutlass or holding this machete was natural for them. Maybe they were warriors, or maybe they, were farmers or whatever it was. But I definitely felt more warrior than farmer when I held it, but it was definitely there. And so this is kind of an answer to that question. How do you sort of clear that kind of trauma? Well, it starts by shining the light of consciousness on it, right? So recognizing that that is absolutely there, and that the way you react to certain things may not necessarily be you. Like, it could be something that's stored in your DNA, and then somebody else's, like a past, ancestor's sort of behavior. And what I say to myself, and you've heard people say it as well, is that you are the one that is kind of going to be the one who breaks those chains or breaks those yokes. So just consciously being aware of the fact that, okay, that's not your stuff. That's probably somebody else's, energy. But you put it on yourself to be the one that breaks those chains, the one who heals, the past, right? You have to be the one who consciously heals them in a way, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So, is it your soul that is storing the ancestral lineage or the physical DNA? So, it's the physical DNA, because that's what DNA is, right? It's information, right? So, in this particular level, when I'm talking about when I grabbed the machete or the cutlass or whatever, and it felt natural, that is because, like, in my DNA, like, that information is stored there. So, in this particular situation, yes. Okay, have I heard of a heart transplant patient who had donor's memories to find donor's killer? I have not heard of a heart transplant patient who remembered the donor's killer. That's crazy. I need to look into that. And somebody mentioned Assassin's Creed. I like that reference. So yeah, so this world, when you really sit with a lot of what information is out there, yeah, because there's loads of information out there, and you start applying it to, who you are, and to, understanding the nature of not only the psyche, but also the self, right? And then understanding that, okay, this is a vehicle, but you are not the vehicle, and it's going to sort of behave in a particular way, right? But that is just because of the nature of the vehicle. Learning to separate consciousness from self, consciousness from the body, consciousness from the vehicle is important. And that's, I believe, the first step to sort of healing that. So I think I answered that as best as I can. I've been sort of talking about that for a minute. Somebody just said that's from a movie on Netflix about heart transplant. So I guess, is that based on a true story, or is it, they're saying it's a true story. Interesting. Is everything in life predetermined? Great question. I'll come back to that. How do you control dreams? I have found that by doing these sort of deep breathing exercises that I've been doing with the Wim Hof method, I promise you, they're not paying me to say this. I just have found it very interesting. But by doing the breathing exercises, I have found that my dreams have not only become more vivid, but much more symbolic. Like, there's a lot of symbolism. Thank you. There's a lot of symbolism happening in my dreams as well. So that has been interesting. And I've been able to retain the information much longer. Normally when you wake up from a dream, and it, like, you try to remember it, but it, like, escapes you, it's been easier for you to retain the information. But if you're asking, how do you lucid dream? To be perfectly honest with you, that has been something that I have not been able to yet master. However, there are loads of books out there on how to lucid dream, and if it's something that you are interested in, I suggest that you look into it and then let me know what works for you, because I have not yet figured out how to do it. I've only had one lucid dream my whole entire life, and it was absolutely amazing. And for whatever reason, I've been unable to do it, and that's okay. When it's my time, it's my time. And maybe I'll never be able to, but that's okay. But I will say that I do like that my dreams are not like I'm not controlling them. I do enjoy that because it's like watching a movie where you just don't know what's going to happen. And then when I write them down, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what does that mean? So that has been, kind of the trade-off. Like, in one end, yes, I'm not controlling everything in my dream. Although I would love to, because I absolutely would like to see if I can communicate with people in the dream world And who knows, like if we're all kind of going to the same place when we dream, which I've sort of theorized about, if I can meet somebody, if I can learn to lucid dream and then meet somebody in a lucid dream and then figure out a way to like exchange emails or something like that and then connect in like this reality, like how cool would that be? So, but it has not happened to me yet. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going back to read what you guys are saying. Excessive dreaming. You know, I have heard of people, you know, use that terminology. Somebody mentioned reality checks throughout the day. I tried that. It did not work for me. But I should say it hasn't worked for me so far. But I have heard of the label excessive dreaming, and I just, how do you, like, what is excessive dreaming? Like, what is, like, you're saying, like, that's a bad thing, but I love dreaming. Exchanging emails in a lucid dream. I mean, come on, like, what else? Like, just, like, how else? Like, if I had a lucid dream and I read it to somebody and I was like, hey, are you, like, alive in the, you know, like in 2021? Like, really? Okay, like, email me. Let's talk about this. But I'm sure nobody would believe that. I did paint that. That's one of my paintings, yes. Why do I feel like I don't belong in my life anymore? What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that? Okay, they say the people who see you in your dreams are someone your consciousness already knows. Yeah, maybe not, which is why I think that a lot of my dreams are more symbolic, right? Like, so I'm moving around, guys. I'm not like farting. So if you hear weird noises, I'm not farting. But I've thought about that. So I used to look at my dreams and take them sort of literally when I would have my dreams and I'd write them out. But then, like, the more I dream, the more I'm starting to realize that they are not, that some of my dreams are actually meant to be taken, like figuratively, right? Like, so there's certain people, like, I'll have a dream where, like, somebody has the face of my mother, right? But it's not about my mother, it's about something, like, maternal. Does that make sense? So, like, I've had dreams where, like, you know, something like, I don't know, something bad happens to like my mom, but in my dream, and then I wake up like, oh no. Of course, nothing ever happens to her, thank God. But as I've gotten older, I realized like, no, it's not meant to be taken literally. Like, the dream is trying to sort of tell me something. Like, there's something about like a maternal instinct that is, you know, dying, that needs to be nurtured. Does that make sense? Yeah, somebody says it makes sense. Thank you. So yeah, so not taking, you know, not taking things literally has helped with my interpretation of my dreams, and it actually made them archetypes, absolutely, and it actually made them even much more interesting. So speaking of not taking things, I have not listened to the Law of One, I don't think, by Dolores Cannon. If I have, I think I did not re-listen to it, but the name obviously sounds familiar. But I don't think it resonated with me, so I can't speak on it. I'm not hiding. I just been on vacation. Yeah, dreams about bugs, about something bugging you. But what up, friend? But yeah, you guys want to hear why I have Ishmael. So it's one of the reasons why I have Ishmael on the title of this live. So I'm gonna mention it again. I mentioned it earlier, but there are people kind of popping in. So there's a book called Ishmael that a couple of people actually mentioned in my last live, and I went and read it, and it was very interesting. And I'd love for you guys to check it out if you can. It's not a very large book. It's a 2-hour listen, and if you speed it up, you can get through it in like 45 minutes or whatever, or an hour, right? Not that you don't have to speed it up. That's just how I listen to stuff, because I have ADD. But it ends. Okay, and I'm trying to say this without spoiling it. I don't think it can be spoiled, but it ends by saying that. So are you guys familiar? And type in if you are familiar with the story of Cain and Abel. And if you're not, I'll kind of give you a brief synopsis. The story of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel obviously were the children of Adam and Eve. Okay. And okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so I don't have to explain it. So, when I was younger and I read about Cain and Abel, right, I always thought it was weird that the Genesis, like the gods of Genesis, rejected Cain's offering to God. You guys remember that? So Abel presented an offering of like animals to the God of Genesis, and oh, you have a reverend. And then we have Cain, who presented like, you know, fruit, right, and vegetables, right, to God. And for some reason, the God of Genesis like rejected Cain's offering. And when I like reading that, I was just like, does God hate like vegetables? I mean, I could get it, you know, but I never quite understood that until I read Ishmael, which is what I'm talking to you guys about. So the way the author explains what Ishmael is, and now you guys like hear this out, okay? So he said that the ancient Hebrews got that story of, you know, Cain and Abel from the ancient Semitic people, okay? And the Semitic people, the ancient Semites, they were hunter-gatherers, and they were also like herdsmen, okay? And hunter-gatherers and herdsmen tend to live, right, with the land, right, in unison, in unity, right, in whatever word, synergy with the land. They allow the land, nature, to feed them, right? So they just, you know, okay, we're going to hunt today. If we can't eat this, that's okay, we'll eat this. Whatever the land or God, the gods or whatever, would provide, that was how they sort of lived in communion, with nature. Now, the Semites were, according to this book, Ishmael, the Semites were at war with the Caucasians, which was interesting. And the Caucasians, they were the agriculturalists, right? They were the farmers, okay? So the story of Cain and Abel was written by the ancient Semites, according to the story Ishmael. Was written by the ancient Semites, and it was against the Caucasians, and the Caucasians were represented by Cain, okay? And the reason why it is written that the gods, Elohim, rejected, you guys stay with me here, the Elohim rejected Cain's sacrifice was because the Elohim were basically saying that they reject agriculture, because agriculture is the root cause of essentially all of this shit that's happening right now, guys. Look around. The way we are as a society, the West, it's driven largely, it all started with agriculture. It was the shift, that was what basically brought us to now everybody's working a 9-to-5 job that they hate. Well, most people are working a 9-to-5 job that they hate. All of that because agriculture was basically man going, I'm not going to rely on God or the gods or Elohim or Yahweh, whatever, to provide. We will dominate nature or we will become gods. Okay, that is what Ishmael was talking about. And now here's the kicker. And this is like, there's no racism here, guys. I'm just telling you what the book said. So please, you know, cuidado, okay? This is what the book said. He said that the mark of Cain's mark, was his white skin. It was the one thing that God had marked him with. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what I read. I didn't write the book, okay? So take it out on the author. I just thought it was interesting. I'm just sharing it. But he said that Cain's mark was his white skin. And it was the Caucasians that tend to sort of go, they are the only ones who go from land to land, and they seek to, you know, impose agriculture, okay, on the others. Okay, impose agriculture on the others, on their brothers, right? And so that is like everywhere. And this is what the author says: every time you see a Caucasian, you know that they're bringing with them like agriculture, for better or worse. And I was like, holy shit! Like the fact that the fact that it wasn't Cain and Abel being just two, like, sons. It was Cain and Abel representing cultures, hit me on a different level. I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting, because then I actually took that and I ran with it, because then I started thinking of like the, I believe it's called like Theosophy. It was like a story about like Greeks, like the ancient Greeks or whatever. That's a whole different talk, but not taking the Greek like stories of like the Titans to be actual people, but looking at them as more of cultures and civilizations at war with each other. So the story of like the Titans, the 12 Titans and Cronus and Jupiter and the birth of, Zeus and even like Gaia and things like that, all of that, could those have been stories describing past humanoid civilizations? Not just, these gods or whatever, but actual cultures that have spanned, like, what do they say? 300,000 years of human civilizations, people who have existed just like us, and we are only really cognizant of the last 10,000 years. So there's a large chunk of human civilization that we don't know, that's missing, basically, right? There's a large chunk of human civilization that is missing that we don't know about. So could these myths actually be sort of like a historical narrative, and that what people call the gods and things like that may not actually be gods, but may actually be personification of whole like civilizations and cultures that came before? Okay, so that whole thing tripped me out. And then I started thinking, so going back to Ishmael, metaphors, yes. But that got me thinking about going back to agriculture. Yep, the world has been destroyed. So all of my videos, I kind of put it all together. But then it got me thinking back to agriculture, right? I'm not missing that. Year's missing. Okay, they said you're missing that is a simulation. I'm like, I'm not missing that, but yes, all of that, right? So then you start to like sit with that and like start breaking things down. Like, first of all, so the mark of Cain being the Caucasian skin, and then you said, and you go like, yes. Then I went back, and like I said, like, please don't take this personally. Just read the books or whatever. It's not meant to make anybody feel some type of way about that, but just a different perspective. Courage. It's just a different perspective, and I want you guys to read the book, because it does make you think, and not about just something that's surface. It does make you think about everything. So now this is something the book does not talk about, but I'm going to share with you guys. So let me know if you guys are ready. Say yes. Let me know you're ready. Let me know you're ready. Come on. Interact with me, guys. Talk to me. The book is called Ishmael. So it's the title of the podcast. I said Wim Hof and Ishmael. So, all right. Now, what about plant agriculture? Though I feel that factory farms are inhumane. Absolutely. All right. Let's go. Let's go back to the fall of man. Okay. You guys ready? The fall of man. Adam and Eve were in the garden. Okay. Mythology. Okay. Adam and Eve were in the garden. Think of Earth in a way as the garden. Okay. And then they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It wasn't the tree of knowledge. It was a tree of knowledge of good and evil. And when you read these things, okay, so for people who are jumping in, this is not a Bible thing, right? I do not identify with the label of Christian. I like studying mythology, and as I was saying, and I've been saying, it's, can you take these stories and look at them as metaphors for something that occurred historically? Okay, so now these two particular people, right? They ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, not of knowledge, because we tend to shorten it. And go, it's a tree of knowledge. I made the mistake as well. It's a tree of knowledge, but it's not. It's a tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now, what is that? What does that mean? Knowledge of good and evil. If you break it down, you go back to its original translation, what that means is Judgment. Exactly. To think that we know what is good or bad. Judgment. So they ate. They ate from the fruit. It's a metaphor. It wasn't an actual fruit. It was, they adopted the belief. These people, this particular race. So if you go back to Genesis, you'll see that that there are other races that were called the sons of God, but there were other people like that were created as well. There's 2 creation stories. Go back and read it. It's very interesting. But there's 2 creation stories, and I feel like this creation story is only talking about these particular. Let's say Adam and Eve aren't actual people, but it's a metaphor for like a civilization of people. Okay, they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They began to look around and say, wait, what we are doing isn't right? This is wrong. And then they developed shame. So they looked around and saw other civilizations of other people living, in ignorance in a way, right? But living off the earth and allowing the earth to provide, right? But then they looked at themselves and said, we're naked. Are you guys with me? Because you guys heard what I said about Cain, the mark of Cain. So they look at themselves and they said, we're naked, and they felt ashamed. So then they covered themselves, right? That was it. Then they started covering themselves, okay? And then they killed animals and created cloth. And then you have Cain and Abel. So you have Cain representing the people who developed agriculture. So they felt as though, Cain is a culture of people who felt as though living in a particular way was wrong, was better, was worse, right, than living off the land. You guys know what I'm trying to say. So they felt that living off the land was wrong, was primitive, was savage. Are you guys following me? And they began to put on clothes and began to conquer nature, right? So everything now, if you look around the world right now and you look at the troubles that we have with the water, our oceans being polluted, our skies being polluted, everything, we're destroying this planet. You guys need to read Ishmael. It's very interesting. But it was because one culture decided that to live a certain way, for better or worse, like I'm just sharing, what the story says, okay? And you guys can form your whatever conclusions that you want from it. And I'm not saying that I wholeheartedly, agree with what the author said. It was just something that was paradigm shifting and eye-opening, okay? There was one culture that looked up and said, the way the Africans live is primitive. The way the Native Americans live is primitive. The way the Indians, the Hindustanis live, primitive, right? So you have all of these other humanoids, like all these other civilizations that are living in accordance with nature. And one culture came and said, that is wrong, and judged that. They decided that they were right? They had the right to judge others. And we will bring you civilization. And now that's why you have to go to work on Monday, right? Because everything is food, right? There's food everywhere. There's food everywhere. And everything else on this planet lives in accordance with nature, follows the laws of nature. And then we have the agriculturalists who came and said, no, we will not live in accordance with nature. We will dominate nature. We will conquer nature. And I don't know if you guys realize that when you say, okay, we're going to conquer space, right? Like that's what we're doing now. Like we're saying the next, we're going to occupy, we're going to conquer space, whatever. But when you say things like conquest, and you use words like conquest, you know what tends to happen? You don't go into a situation saying I'm going to conquer something and then it's not destroyed. So we're being led down this path of we're conquering nature. You can't conquer something without destroying it. You get what I mean? So we're now on this path of conquest, and we're destroying it. Okay? We're destroying this planet. And it was one culture that decided everybody else, the way everybody else is living, is wrong. Okay? So I don't want to meet what you guys are saying. It's like a quest to Father Universe's mind. I think it's opposite. Nature is conquering us. Well, eventually nature is going to be like, hey, fuck off, guys. Right? Like, that's what nature's going to do. And you know why I'm saying that? Because it keeps happening, right? So there was a video that kind of went viral. I'm wearing the dog shirt from Rick and Morty, Snuffles shirt. And I talk about that, okay? Where every single culture that has traveled down this path, because they weren't the first, right? Cain, descendants of Cain, if you want to use that analogy, we're not the first to travel down this path. And I don't imagine we will be the last, okay? But every culture that has tried to dominate, conquer nature in the way that we are walking down, where are they now? Where are they now? Okay. And there's a video. The video is called The Loop. Yeah. Because we keep doing this. You know, I guess if at first you don't succeed, try again. But we keep doing this over and over again. And yes, somebody mentioned Atlanteans. Why? I don't know where they are. I think they're under the sea. Because nature said, hey guys, fuck off. And that was when the Great Deluge happened. And then they all got flooded. And I'm sure they're like in subterranean networks now. You get what I mean? Yeah? Like after a certain time of like, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like you think we would wake up and go like, maybe instead of trying to conquer it, we should. And look, there's nothing wrong with going, hey, I don't want to just go around and hunt for my food, right? There's nothing wrong even if we just say, hey, let's all just build our own like gardens and share, like barter, right? Like, why are we living like this? Who does this benefit? The way of life that we are sort of like, we've adopted or have been forced upon us, only benefits, like, what is it? Like a 0.01% of the population. So I'll say that again. The way of life that we have adopted, or I should say, have been forced upon us, only benefits like 0.01% of the entire population. And not just human beings. Like, think about what's happening to animals. Think about what's happening to the ocean. All of this destruction and death for the benefit of 0.01% of the entire population on this planet. That's crazy. I saw this video on TikTok of this young man, and he broke it down. And I almost like, I felt sad for him, you know, because like I felt that shit. He was like, why are we doing this loop? Real talk. He was like, look, Monday you go to work and you're like, okay guys, it's Monday again. Oh, Monday sucks. Tuesday you go to work and you're like, oh, well, at least it's not Monday. Wednesday you're like, hey, happy hump day. It's almost the weekend. Thursday you're like, oh, yay, Friday is tomorrow. Can't wait till the weekend. Friday, yes, it's finally the weekend. You get 2 days. Actually, you get 1 day because you get Saturday to really enjoy. Right? It hit hard. It hit me hard too. Like I felt that shit. Saturday is like really your only day off because when Sunday comes, now you're mentally preparing for Monday again. And that is the cycle. And you do this, right? That is what has been imposed on us by 0.01% of the entire population. Not the entire human population. The entire population on this planet. Ants, jellyfish, like all of these creatures are being impacted negatively by 0.01% of entities on this planet. And so you're doing this cycle every day. And for 40 years, whatever of your life. And then you retire if you're lucky. And then you play golf and die. Yeah. So of all the beautiful things that this reality sort of holds, right? And you know, if you believe in the simulation hypothesis and you believe in Nietzsche's eternal return, and you're going to come back and loop into the same life, whatever. All of these beautiful things that this our reality sort of holds for us, parallel universes and things like that. All the things that we could be doing with our time, but instead we are serving 0.01% and essentially the gods of agriculture, right? The gods of agriculture, right? So the gods of agriculture are the ones who go and tear down and break down a forest, right? So every sort of environmentalist like documentary you find or you watch, they keep saying like it's human beings that is the problem. Like human beings are the problem. We're not the fucking problem. We're not the problem. Like I'm not going to the Amazon and cutting down with my machete, cutting down the the Amazonian rainforest in order to make a profit. Okay? And every time they talk about our world being destroyed, it's always, oh, there's too many humans. That's fucked up. Right? It's always there's too many humans. It's like, no, we're just trying to survive in a system that a particular group of people created for us. Right? By saying to live in a different way is savage, right? Or it's primitive. Right? To live with the planet, to live according to the laws of nature is savage, is primitive. So we're just trying to survive. So to you guys sit and watch, watch all these documentaries that keep coming out about the environment, and they say like, look at all the devastation that is occurring on this planet, and then they go, it's because there's too many humans. Bruh, no, like most humans are like following this like system of agriculture, right? It's food. It's all about food, right? We've overfished our oceans because 0.01% needs to make a profit selling food. They tell people you need to eat 2,000 calories and we're just constantly shoving our goddamn faces all the time. Excuse me. I'm being a little cynical today. I apologize. But who taught us that? Who taught us that? So we're living in a particular way because we're programmed to live in a particular way, and then and it's leading to all of these sort of issues, right? And then you say it's humans. So the way we solve that problem is, well, we got to reduce the human population. That's weird to me. I don't know about you guys, but that's weird. Anyway, I'm going to get off that topic because I know that it's not a positive vibe. But I would recommend that you guys check out the book Ishmael and think deeply about it. Yeah, somebody said it starts with kindergarten. Exactly. Yeah, I just, a lot of you guys have been saying, like, we can do better. Like, we don't have to live like this. Like, think about how beautiful this world is, Why are we living like this? The farming industry is killing the planet. That's what I said. I've been talking about. That's what I've been talking about. I broke it down from Ishmael. Thank you, friend. I'm sorry, I'm going to destroy your name, so I'm not going to try, but thank you. Friend, appreciate you. But yeah, that's what I've been talking about. It's all, when you sit back and you think about it, what is it? What is it? Read Ishmael. Think deeply. You don't have to accept everything the author talks about. Just think deeply. But everything that we see now, agriculture, for the most part, the majority of what's driving a lot of the carnage and damage we have is because of the development of agriculture. Right? Man's quest to dominate and conquer Earth. Man's quest to dominate and conquer nature. Right? You can't walk around, yes, by Daniel Quinn. You can't, I believe it's Daniel Quinn. Yeah, but you can't walk around using words like, I'm going to conquer, things. Like, you're going to conquer the world, the thing that nourishes you. You're going to conquer it. What kind of fucked up mindset is it? I'm going to conquer something that nourishes you. It's a weird way to look at things. But yeah, check out Ishmael, guys. That's my soapbox on that. Well, what I loved about Ishmael is that if you just conquer your soul, you'll conquer everything. Absolutely, conquer the ego. But what I loved about it's a mindset of a particular, group of people who, like I said, looked at different people and said, that's wrong. The way you're living is wrong. I'm not a vegan. After I said all that, I'm not a vegan. But I also don't. The majority of the food that I eat are, are plants, right? I'm mostly plant-based. It's just I have some underlining autoimmune issues. I tried going vegan, and but I developed like some underlining autoimmune issues, which is why I am now trying the Wim Hof method, because the Wim Hof method is supposed to help with inflammation. I think that you have to do what works for you and your body. And for some people, there's value in being a vegan. Just be mindful. So a few things, if you are going to go down the path of veganism, one, understand that, for example, you can't just like trade out and just start eating a bunch of like tofu and soy-based stuff. That stuff is not good for you. A lot of that stuff is super processed. Okay, super processed. And tofu in itself, soy in itself, is estrogenic, so you need to be mindful of that, especially if you have issues like polycystic, ovarian syndrome or endometriosis, something like that. I'm not a medical professional, but you need to understand when you put certain foods in your body, the effects that they have in your body. So if you're constantly just like consuming tofu and soy, these are estrogenic, things. So you're putting, hormones in your body, more or less, and you need to be mindful of that. So like I said, the majority of the foods that I eat are plant-based, but I don't eat processed, foods like that. But I do occasionally, just for my body, and because of my underlying issues, which is why I am trying the Wim Hof method, and I talked about it throughout this. I'll post this live on my YouTube as well. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. The book is called Ishmael. Please check it out. But I also don't eat a lot. I don't subscribe to the 2,000 calories a day mindset. If you look up the history of where that originated, you'll find that it's just another method of like control, for lack of better phrasing. So I don't do that. I only eat when I'm hungry. Like I said, the majority of the foods that I eat are plant-based, in the sense of like I eat like chickpeas and grapes and lots of vegetables, lots of fresh fruits, stuff like that. I love tahini. It's a recent thing that I just kind of picked up. So lots of coconut water, fresh water, things like that. I don't drink milk. I drink oat milk. So I sort of avoid all of that. But every once in a while, somebody mentioned intermittent fasting. Absolutely. So I'm definitely into intermittent fasting as well. And like, I'm not like emaciated or anything like that. There's this idea where they say that if you eat, less than 2,000 calories a day, you'll look like emaciated. Like, that's not true. Like, I've been eating this way for a really long time. It's actually better for me, for this body. And, but like I said, the body is a vehicle, and you need to understand that the body needs certain things. Okay. Do with that information what you will. A lot of the proteins that I do, or animal-based proteins that I do consume, we order directly from farms. And so we know where, it's like they're ethical farms. So we know where our food is coming from. Same thing with seafood. I will order directly, like, bulk or whatever, and we store it in a deep freezer or whatever. So, but that's me. Do what works for you. Like I said, the only thing I can speak on veganism, like foods like Impossible. I do meditate. Impossible foods. You guys need to look into that, and the harm that they actually cause to the planet. Because there's another company as well that's like, once the original sort of creators sold out, it's actually like they're just greenwashing now. So be mindful of that. There is a company called Ecovative. They're doing a lot of stuff with like mushrooms, and I'm really excited to see what they will be able to do with that. But just, stay away from processed stuff if you are a vegan, and so that's all I can really say about that. But yes, I absolutely do meditate. And I keep talking about, thank you. I keep talking about the Wim Hof method. And the only reason why I keep talking about it is because I have used that. I've started using that. You're very welcome. I've started using that as a meditation. And So the Wim Hof method, the way I use it, is you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out. There's an app, okay? You can do 25 sets, or you can do 30 sets or whatever. And then you release the breath and you hold for as long as you can. And then when you can't anymore, exhale, take a deep breath in, count to 15. You can use the app as well, and then release. And then you start over. You can do about 3 to 4 cycles of that. I've not made it to the ice bath yet. I am on cold showers after a warm shower, but I'm working up to ice baths. So you do that. You can do 3 to 4 cycles of that, and that becomes a meditation. So I used to meditate using like a mantra, and but I find that just focusing on breathing and breathing consciously has actually been more calming than repeating a mantra. And actually, I'm able to focus more on my breathing than I have been on repeating a mantra. And maybe because it's like, it's your actual breathing. Especially when like that second part of the breathing exercise where you take a deep breath in and you're holding your breath, like you're really, your mind's not really going to be, wondering when you're focusing on like, okay, like how long can I hold my breath kind of thing. So that's what I use as my meditation. Is that the method that's supposed to increase DMT production? Oh my gosh. You know what? You might be onto something, CJ Purnell. Because like I said, after I kind of, when I read the book, the Wim Hof method, he has a book. He did mention that, and I kind of just didn't think twice, about it. But I did say in this live that ever since I started doing that, my dreams have become much more vivid. And when I wake up, they actually, like, I'm able to retain the dreams and write them out. And I can still, even towards the end of the day, remember bits of the dream. And now I'm just putting 2 and 2 together that, yeah, it's absolutely, can increase. It has to, because my dreams, like I said, are much more vivid than they've been in the past. So I think you're onto something there. And somebody said about yoga and Eastern philosophy. I love Eastern philosophy. In fact, it was Eastern philosophy that took me down the path of studying quantum physics. Personally, I'm not at the yoga part yet because I'm lazy. I like the deep breathing exercises because it's something I can do. I like the cool shower because I can knock that out. And I've been trying to do more walks lately. But like yoga, like I watch other people do it and I'm like, dang, that looks interesting. And it's great as a meditation for other people. I'm just not there yet. But I absolutely have no problem with Eastern philosophy. In fact, a lot of Western philosophy, and I would argue Western religions were influenced by Eastern philosophy as well. So, yeah. Yoga feels amazing. That's cool. I Ching Chinese Book of Changes. Interesting. I appreciate you guys. You guys are always great. I feel like I need to like get off because I don't think I've eaten like proper. Like, I mean, I've had snacks throughout the day, but I'm like, as you guys can tell, I'm probably running out of energy. I'd probably go for like another hour, but I do need to sort of go. Like, I feel like you guys have stuff to do too. Like, and just sit there and listen to me talk. But you guys are always amazing. And I always appreciate you guys like popping in with your great questions. And it's always interesting because like every time I get ready to do a live, like I always think, okay, like what am I gonna talk about? And then we sit and we do, the live, and it always is great. You guys always have like, wonderful energy. How do you find my podcast? I'm like Google. That's funny. Thank you. I will post this video in my YouTube. Usually you can skip the first like 15 minutes of most of my lives because it's just, waiting for people to come in and things like that. But you can find my podcast. The link is on the bio. I have 2. This is your reality show. It's funny. I have 2 podcasts. One is The Dark Oracle's Guide to the Multiverse, but that's just 15 episodes. And I think the last episode I did on that was like 2-3 years ago. That's just more taking the simulation hypothesis and creating like, okay, this is a simulation, which I believe it is. Would there be like an in-game manual, right? And so that's what that podcast was supposed to be, an in-game like manual to our simulated reality. And my favorite episode of that is the last episode. It's called Wake Up Neo. But my ongoing, somebody asked about my hair dye. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but if you DM me, I'll tell you. And it's not even like permanent, like it'll wash off. But my ongoing podcast where I post new episodes every week, as often as I can, is called not the Dark Oracles. It's called Your One Black Friend. And you can find a link to it in my bio. Link is in the bio. solo.to/Jolie Artist. And you'll see my YouTube and things like that as well. But as you guys can see, I'm running out of energy. So my lipstick color. It's a combination, and DM me and I'll tell you as well. I use different, like I'll use like Tarte. Tarte has like a lip stain. So I'll use that as a base, and it's like Fortune or something. It's like a dark brown. Then I'll put MAC over it, and it's a retro MAC in like Ruby Woo. And then I'll put like another shade of Tarte Cosmetics, the lip tart over it, but like a red. And then it like creates this. So it's not one color. But if you DM me, I'll tell you what it is. Thank you guys for popping in and for listening to me. I left you a link on YouTube recently to that open reality page. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. If you guys please have a chance, read Ishmael. Just because it's something to think about. You know, like I said, you take it for what it is. But it was one of those books that when you read, I love you guys too. Make more videos. Okay, I have them. I just need to post them. That is my problem. Thank you guys for being so awesome. But I have made videos. They're sitting in my drafts. It's more about posting them. And I've said this before. Do one video. So the way TikTok's, I will get some rest. Thank you. But the way TikTok's algorithm works, it's like if you don't post at certain times, you've got to like figure out when's the right time to post it. And then when I do need to post it, like I'll like lose track of time because I'm like painting or something or writing. And then like I'll forget to post. So, but I will post more. I just posted a recent video before I went live. So go, check it out. But there's a couple when I did one called, it's recorded. It's called Conspiracy Theorists of the Future. And like, it's my favorite. I'm just trying to figure out like, when's the right time to post it. Cause it's funny. Well, I find it funny. I find it interesting. So I'll post it at some point in time, but, am I doing lives of my painting? I don't know if anybody wants to see me paint, but I'll keep that in mind. But yeah. All right, guys, I gotta go. I got a blast. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out. I hardly have views. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. TikTok's weird. The algorithm's weird. So you gotta like time it weird. Well, if you post it on a Monday, but you don't you haven't posted in a while, like it won't show your videos. It's just weird. So I try to figure out all that. I have not read the UFO report because like I said, I don't care. Oh, you said my next video? I will try to find it and see what they have to say, but it's probably gonna be snarky and along the lines of I don't care what they have to say. So, but yes, I appreciate you, time traveler. You're so cool. I appreciate all of you, CJ Parnell. I hope you're feeling all right on your trip. That is a heroic dose. All right, guys, I got a blast. Thank you for stopping by. I'll talk to you later. If you get more views, we'll probably never speak again. What? No, nah. I got time, guys. Like, yeah, I'm not like that. Trust me. We'll talk. All right. Later, guys. Thank you.